Hello. So today I thought I would do something a little bit different. I've never done one of these things before, but one of my subscribers messaged me and said you should do the in and out book tag. Now, apparently, this is a bit of an old book tag, but I thought I'd do it. It's 26 questions, and you have to say whether you're in and out on these kind of bookish things. And I thought, do you know what? Why not? I'm reading a pretty big book at the moment, so I haven't got anything to review until probably about next week. So why not do this and just put something up so you can hear my thoughts and feelings about bookish things. So, question number 1, reading the last page first. Madness. I'm definitely out on this one. Doesn't make much sense to me. It's all about the journey. Finding out where we end up might not necessarily harm the journey we're going on, but it just seems pointless to me. I think it was a thing. The movie When Harry Met Sally, the protagonist in that, Harry, he talks about how he reads the last page first, so if he dies whilst reading the book, he knows what happens. But yeah, I'm definitely out on that one. I just don't see the point. Enemies to lovers. Yeah, I think enemies to lovers is a trope that's used quite often, but it's not necessarily a bad one. I think many times, with depending on the story being told and how the old enemies to lovers weaves itself into the main narrative at play, I think it can be a really nice way to progress the story. Dream sequences. Tricky. Am I in or out on dream sequences? I think I'm in. It really does depend. And as I'm looking at these questions, I always go to myself, well, depending on the story and the way it's written, any of these things can kind of work if the writer's good enough. But in general, dream sequences, I think they do a good job of getting you into maybe a character's mindset, their psyche, what's happening on the inside and what's being reflected in their dreams. But 9 times out of 10, I sometimes think it's a bit of a lazy device, a way of going, let's represent what's really happening on the inside of the character by giving them a dream that sort of is a metaphor for all of it. I think just give it to me in the story that's happening. But, yet again, I'm not specifically out on it, so I'll say I'm in, but yeah, I'm not too bothered by a dream sequence. Love triangles. I'm in! I like love triangles. I think they create really great dynamics, especially if you're reading like a romance story or a sort of adventure novel, or maybe even like a piece of YA in which characters are sort of, they're growing up, they're going from adolescence into adults and they're figuring things out. I think love triangles can give a real good test of where your allegiances lie and how you deal with the fact that someone you might be with someone else, or someone that you love is with someone else. I just think that kind of, it always produces very interesting writing for me. So I'm going to be in on that one. Love triangles work for me. Cracked spines. To some people, I feel like cracking a spine will be like breaking the back of a book and would be horrified by it. Cracked spines, I don't know. I tend to, if I've really hated a book, and I'm reading it in hardback, I tend to, when I finish it, crack it and then chuck it. As kind of like a 1-2. But it's only in those instances. I'm not too sure about cracking a spine, but if it's your book, crack away. But I probably would not, so I'm out on that one. Back to my small town. Back to my small town trope. I really do enjoy. I come from a small town. I mean, I currently live in a small town, but I come from a small town. And going back and visiting and seeing the people who have stayed, or catching up with people who have left but have gone back for holidays, those kind of things, I always find those very interesting moments in my life. And seeing how your small town changes, but how some things will never change and always stay the same, and how a small town affects your outlook on the world in general. Even when you go away and you see the wider world and you travel, or you go and live in a big city, I always tend to find that people who live in small towns always dream of one day ending back at that small town, even though they spent most of the first part of their life wanting to get out. And I find psychologically that's a really interesting idea to grapple with. And yeah, books that can handle it well, I think it makes for very interesting reading. So yeah, I am in on the whole back to small town trope. Monsters are regular people. Yep, I'm in. I think that monsters are regular people is a very interesting idea. I tend to prefer people who are a bit more morally grey, like because we all are. Like, we none of us are wholly good, and none of us are wholly bad. And I find the stories that make us question choices that our protagonists have made, whilst also making us really care for that protagonist, is far more interesting than us following someone who is overtly evil. Let's think to that TV show and the book You. Caroline, I'm not going to get a surname, begins with a K. Those books, I find that one quite questionable, because the book and the TV show does everything in its power to make you root for this protagonist who is a serial killer, an absolutely horrific person. And in that trope, I go, well, you can say as much as you want, well, I'm just writing a serial killer. It's you who is choosing to root for this person. But it's not, is it? I mean, you're doing lots of things to make us root for this person when they're a monster. And it's in instances like that manipulation, that I'm definitely out. But generally, I really like diving into the idea of very tricky characters who can be considered monsters, and giving us a more human side to them, allowing us to empathise with them in some ways. Maybe never forgive them, but the ability to empathise nevertheless. So yeah, I'm going to go in for monsters are people. No paragraph breaks. I'm definitely out on this one. As someone who suffers with dyslexia, I can tell you that paragraph breaks really do help. If I'm looking at a page of just dense text, it took me years and years to train my brain to be able to read that fluidly, and now I'm amazing at it. And I can boast, because it was a lot of hard work. But yeah, when I look at just a dense page of text, my dyslexic brain tends to find that a little bit overwhelming. It's fine. I mean, I read a lot of academic texts, for my job, and they're mainly just absolute dense pages of text. It's not that I don't get enjoyment from it, and it stops me being able to engage with the story at play. But yeah, my brain, the way things look, it makes me feel better and easier when we have those paragraph breaks. So yeah, I'm definitely in on paragraph breaks. Multi-generational sagas. I'm in on these as well. I really enjoy historical fiction. I really enjoy following a family and getting to know every single character, all the details of them. A recent book I read this year, Blackwater, does this beautifully well, in which it takes the time for us to get to know every single individual character, and we can literally see the traits of their parents or their guardians sort of flowing into the children, and then becoming their own adults, but also displaying aspects of their parents and the people who raised them. I find that really fascinating. I think it must be really hard to do in a piece of writing, whilst creating a unique character that shows those elements of what has come before them. So yeah, I'm definitely in. I like long books though. I don't mind short books, but I prefer long books. I like being able to really get into something. Yeah, and a lot of multi-generational sagas tend to be beasts of a book. So yeah, I'm in. Definitely in on this one. Artificial intelligence. Yeah? This is a kind of in or out. I don't know, take it or leave it. It completely depends on the story. I will tell you this, if I see a story as about AI, I'm not that drawn to it. I would need to know what else the story is about, where the world is set, how the AI comes into it, in order to kind of pick up that book. But a book that's like kind of solely focused on AI wouldn't necessarily draw me in. So I suppose maybe I'm out, but I've got nothing against AI in novels. It's great. I think if it works correctly and it, adds to the story, I'm in. But yeah, if it's solely just about that, I'm not normally that drawn towards it. Drop caps. Now, drop caps, if you don't know, is when you start a chapter, the first letter of the first word is quite large. I might put an image up so you can see. But yeah, the first letter in the first page is quite large of each chapter. And it's sort of, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think it looks fairly fancy, maybe. It doesn't bother me, but I'm not like I need it. So I reckon that probably means I'm out on it. But I think it looks good. Can look kind of cool. Happy endings. Yeah, why not? Some stories have happy endings, don't they? I don't think I'm overtly. I do. It just depends. Yeah, again, oh my god, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it really does depend on the story being told, because It's all subjective, so one person's idea of an happy ending could actually be quite a sad ending. But in general, I think that sometimes things in life do work out. Um, I know some people aren't lucky enough to have that, and some people go through a lot of horrible things in their lifetime, and others are obviously very blessed and lucky. But I will say that, in my life, it's always been up and down, but some things have worked out. And yeah, I've worked hard and it's worked out. So I would say happy endings are not necessarily that detached from life, but as we all know, life continues, and that your happy ending might soon turn into an unhappy continuing. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm in. Yeah, happy endings, I'm absolutely fine with it. Plot points that only converge at the end. Yeah, yeah, I'm down with that. I think a good thriller always uses that device as long as it's earned. I mean, it has to be earned. Uh, the plot point can't be just shoved in there. Things can't just be shoved together at the end for convenience. But if the book has taken the time and it has worked those threads really well and uniquely, and that they all come together in an interesting way at the end, then totally, yeah, I love that. Detailed magic systems. I love a good detailed magic system. I think actually the creativity in thinking up a magic system, especially with the amount of fantasy out there, must be really, really hard to do. Something that works within the world you're creating, something that feels believable. A detailed magic system that's way too overcomplicated and doesn't make any sense, then I'm out. But yeah, I always find that a detailed magic system, Patrick Ruffrus, oh my god, why do I always forget his name? The Name of the Wind. The way the magic system works in that is very detailed, but it takes its time, it breaks it down, and you completely understand it, and you completely understand its place and its use within the world that he's created. So, yeah, I'm definitely down for a detailed magic system, but I can understand when people aren't, especially if it's at the expense of the story and the plot. If a magic system is slowing everything down to the point where you're getting bored, then that's just bad writing in general. You just got to. If I've read many books where that has happened, but if you are reading something in which the magic system is fascinating, it's aiding a character's progression throughout the story, it's aiding the story in general, and it's not taking an age to get there, then I think it's great. So yeah, I'm in. Classic fantasy races. I'm out. Think up new stuff. Do you know what I mean? You're using why borrow from someone who invented something so many years ago? Come up with new stuff. Think of new, different characters. Be creative. If you're writing a fantasy novel and you're just borrowing from tropes that we've seen before, rubbish. So yeah, I'm definitely out on that. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be put off by a book that has like elves and dwarves and things in it. Of course not. But come on, you're writing a fantasy novel. Be creative. So yeah, out. Unreliable narrators. 100%. I love a good unreliable narrator. I like feeling halfway through that maybe I shouldn't trust what I'm being told. That moment where you put the book down and you just have to think about, can I trust what I'm being told in this moment? I think that's always an interesting trope, and it always forces me to just not blindly believe the structure and the shape of a piece of work and what it's trying to do to me. And especially if the book's making me feel like I should resist it, that's when I start feeling like maybe I shouldn't be trusting the narrator or what I'm being told. So yeah, I'm in. Evil protagonists. Absolutely, I'm in. I think if we have an understanding of the purposes of the evil protagonist, why they're doing what they're doing, even if it is a bit morally bankrupt and a bit kind of, we don't agree with it, if we are able to still understand, then I'm going to stay invested. If it's just we're following someone going around murdering people with no justification, I don't know, just doesn't do much for me. So in that case, I would be out. But 9 times out of 10, I'm in. The Chosen One. Nah, I'm out now. Used to be in a lot. Always liked a good Chosen One story. I always felt like it makes you as the reader feel like, that could be me. I could be a chosen one. I just don't know it yet. And I think that's great for kids books or, YA and people growing up. I think that's quite a nice sort of trope. But the older you get, the more you just go, oh, well, that's total bullshit. That doesn't really exist in the real world. So no, I'm out on that. When the protagonist dies, I'm in. Yeah. mess things up, mix things around a little bit. Beautiful. I'm always in for that. It's heartbreaking, especially depending on, how connected I am to that character. But yeah, again, anyone in life who has lost a friend knows that people die, people we love, people who we are close to, and they are the protagonists of their own story. And in that moment, we lose them. And I don't know. Yeah, I just think it's a very good representation of life. And as heartbreaking as it might be when reading it in a novel, especially if it's a character you love, yeah, I'm 100% down for when the protagonist dies. Really long chapters. Welcome to Broken Record time. Depends on the book. 9 times out of 10, no, I don't. They don't need to be tiny chapters, but I find, especially with how I work and my life and how busy I am, especially during when the semester patterns are in play, having shorter chapters is brilliant because I can just, if I've got like a 20-minute break, a 30-minute break, and I've got no work to do, I can just sort of grab myself a cup of coffee, sit down and do a chapter or a couple of chapters. But books that have, 100-page chapters, things like that, they don't lend themselves as well to my lifestyle, and I find that trickier. So I'm going to go out on really long chapters, but I have read many books that have really long chapters that I've loved. But in general, yeah, I'm out. French flaps. So French flap is a paperback that has the kind of flap that sort of goes around and uses a bookmark. I'll probably put an image up now so you can see what a French flap looks like. Hilariously named. Yeah, these are cool. I don't have too many books on my bookshelf that have it, which is why I haven't got one to show you. But yeah, I think they're kind of cool. Deckled Edges. Had no idea what this was. No idea at all. So I had to look it up. Here's an image. That's what it is. I don't own any books like this at all. So I'm going to have to hunt one down, have a look at it, and see how I feel. So I'm neither in or out on this because I've got no idea. Looking at it at just the image, yeah, I don't know. Looks kind of cool, but yeah, I don't know. Signed copies by the author. Nah, not bothered. Just not bothered. I'm in it for the story. Having the signature of an author on my book, even if they are my favourite author, does nothing for me. I'm kind of all about the work, so I'm definitely out on signed by the author, especially if they're charging like £10-15 more. No, I'm just want the story, so I'll pay the price for the book and get the story. I'm not bothered about paying extra to have a squiggle from an author on it. But if you love that, great. Dog-eared pages. I am in and out on this. I am out on hardbacks. If I've got a beautiful looking hardback, I'll never dog-ear it. Hardback I tend to sort of look after. They go on my shelf, they look kind of pretty. A paperback, I love just doing whatever with a paperback. I find a paperback that tells a story is great. So if a paperback has got coffee stains on it, it's all dog-eared, it's got writing in the margins, that's what I kind of do with my paperbacks. And when I buy secondhand books or from charity shops and I see them and they've got these little notes in the margins and they're all tattered and they're used, I really enjoy it. It feels like they've been on a journey. I feel like this story has also had a story within itself. And that sounds a bit whimsical because it is a bit whimsical but there's something I love about that. So yes, dog-earing paperbacks, I'm all for. It's your book. Do whatever the hell you want with it. I like it. But hardbacks, I tend to never do it. There's two types of people, I think. People who believe the book itself is a piece of art. And then people who just be like, no, the book is just a carrier for the story and the message that I'm getting. And I feel like, if you feel like the book in and of itself, including the cover, is a piece of art, then you tend to probably be very against dog-earing. Whereas if you're just about the story inside, it doesn't matter what package it comes in. I tend to find those are the people you see dog-earing or not really caring as much. And the final question, chapter titles instead of numbers. Yeah, I love this. I think that a very well thought out title of a chapter can give us loads of information or kind of sum up the ideas and themes within the chapter we're about to read. I think it must be incredibly hard as a writer to do that, to think of a very short chapter title that kind of sums up all the complexities that we're about to go on. And some authors do this incredibly well. So yeah, I'm definitely in for it. And there you go, that is my in or out book tag thing. I haven't got anyone to book tag because I don't know anyone on BookTube. So I don't really know anyone to sort of. I don't want to just blindly throw out someone who I've never talked to or spoken to before. That would be weird. So, but I just want to say thank you to a subscriber who sent me this message saying I should do this. I have found it fun. I've never done anything like this before. I hope it wasn't too boring for you all. Thanks for watching if you have. This has been a long one. But yeah, thanks very much, and I'll see you all on the next one.